Okay. All right. So now thanks to Nidhi, I've shortened the gap to less than 5 minutes from starting. The recording went on. So all we missed was a little greeting. That was all, but let's say hi to everyone. Good evening. So still getting that IT request in for the recordings. There is a way to automatically begin recordings for Zoom. I've activated it, still not going, but I could do it in my day classes. Automatically hits record, so it's like an administration feature, I believe it is. So, but we'll get that mastered in no time. But yeah, it's good to see everybody. Tonight, as you can kind of see, there's a few things we got planned. So first things first, objectives for this evening, we're actually going to spend some time tonight getting some work caught up, or not necessarily caught up, we're actually putting in work for some of the exercises. So we're actually going to put a lot of time this evening towards the current activity or the current exercise on the principles of design and also for the packaging of design. So we're going to be putting those presentations together during this session. I'll be doing like a quick review of just some of the things, some of the points that we went over on Tuesday. And then we'll get into like how the presentations are created and what goes into it. So that's going to be happening this evening. And then right before any of that, before we even start any of it, I'm going to take some time to have you guys catch up on a couple of last week's discussion post. Technically, there is no like official due date on it. So for the first, 10, 15 minutes of class, I'm going to leave some time so that we can fill in a couple of the discussions so we can get those points in. Every point will count, of course. So I want to leave some time to do that. So tonight is going to basically be a major lab time so we can get some theory down, understood, and start writing about it, putting in your images, definitely even taking a look at some of the graphics that you found or some of the images that you found that you'd like to write about. And we're going to put in some principles of design. So ultimately, tonight is all about catching up with points. And then we're also going to be putting together the presentation so that it's super clear, super understood, but more importantly, you guys can kind of see how I see design. And that's the ultimate objective is like, Professor, how do you see design? Like, how do you break it down? And for me, it really comes down to those 6 core principles. And so we're gonna dig a little bit deeper tonight. You're gonna show me some graphics. We're gonna dig on that, right? We're gonna hear 4-year-olds running around getting all crazy and hypey, as they used to say back in the days, and all that stuff. So it's gonna be lots of energy going on because I could already, if you can feel the energy for me, it's like So it's there's a lot going on there. Okay, so why don't we do the first thing? Let's take a minute to kind of rewind and take a look at some of the discussion posts on Canvas. So that way we can kind of see how things are going. So let me go ahead and pull up Canvas, and then we'll give you a couple of seconds and I'll switch over to Canvas so we can see it there. So I'm going to head over to discussions right now and for week number 2, and you'll see a gray screen temporarily, but we're going to switch that over to Canvas. Again, the Zoom system is always kind of blocking, or every time I have a screen over another screen, it tends to create like this gray sort of screen, which is really weird. But let me go ahead and pull that up. And then in packaging, for packaging design, same concept. We're also going to do the exact same thing, same post. So we're going to leave some time to kind of put that together. So let me go ahead and retrieve and open up both Canvas shells so that we can see what's happening here. Okay, so let's take a look. In terms of just for me, definitely been pretty busy this last couple of days. I'll say that right now. In my day school, we are getting ready to. We're slowly getting ready to come back into the classroom, believe it or not. So I haven't had students in the classroom for quite some time. And now next week, I've been in and out of my classroom because we have like I have like big laser cutting equipment and 3D printers and all this wild stuff. And so, yeah, so now we're finally getting back into the classroom. So, next week, everyone's back in the classroom. So I can already anticipate like a lot of mixed feelings about that. Not for me, but I think for most people, because for some, they haven't been in the classroom for like almost a year now. So that's all happening right now. And so a lot of transitioning going on for that, which is pretty wild when I think about that. So it's going to definitely be a different world going back into the classroom. So, can't move around, which is going to make the whole designing aspect really interesting. Like how do you show, students how to design something when typically it's the best way to do is just like sitting down next to them and showing them graphically how that all plays out. So it's going to be an interesting transition going back in my opinion. So a lot of planning going on for that. So, and then for Rio, it's definitely, I think we haven't heard anything yet, but probably we'll probably know during the summertime what all those details are going to look like, which is going to be really interesting. Speaking of which, if you weren't here on Tuesday, I made a quick announcement that that I'll be teaching, or it looks like I'll be very likely teaching the Photoshop or the digital imaging class for summer session. It's the first half of summer session, or first summer session, I think it's called. I'll have more details, but I sent my availability. I said I was definitely interested, and so we're waiting for the next steps. And I spoke to my wife, of course, who's a counselor, and she said that I think by next month, the registration for summer will probably open up. So there's probably going to be maybe like so many seats available for that. But you guys are the very, very, very first to hear about it. So I was even thinking about like contacting, or I have some old Canvas shells of contacting some older students that have me that kind of for the last year or two were kind of asking like, when are you going to teach Photoshop? When are you going to teach Photoshop? And just kind of shooting them a quick message and saying, hey, so but you guys are the first, so you guys get dibs on it. So the moment I find out it goes live, then you guys can sign up for it. And then I'll let, everyone else know if that works for you. Because, I want to make sure that, that you guys that are putting in time get a little bit of a head start, if that works. So if that's something that you might be interested in, you can give me a little emoji thumbs up. That way I can kind of gauge it, but that would be awesome if you can join me for summer. And if not, then chances are hopefully by next summer we'll do it again. But it should be a really cool experience. And I haven't taught Photoshop in a while. I still use it regularly. I just haven't taught it. But before taking like a little break, I've taught it for like 10 years. So the techniques are pretty much the same, like layering, projects, collages, everything of that sort. So it's gonna be like a really interesting kind of a flow there. Okay, but let's go ahead and just take a quick peek on points, because I want to make sure that you guys get a little bit of opportunity to kind of catch up on some points before we go into the next section of creating that presentation for the principles of design. So over here on week 2, and I'm looking at also packaging design too under week 2. You'll notice the discussion of getting paid to think, which is up here, doesn't really have an official due date. Before I even activate anything, I want to make sure that you guys on both sides get a chance to put that together. And that's like about a 10-minute video presentation. If you did it, great. If you haven't had a chance to do it, I want to give you guys a little bit of time today so you can put that together. Basically, when you watch the video, you're just answering the discussion question and kind of getting those points in there, okay? Very short video, getting paid to think. And I have a few folks, good majority that put it in there, but if you haven't had a chance to catch up, definitely take advantage of it this evening. So then that way we can kind of get you set up, get you those points, and ultimately keep you current in the class. And the same goes for packaging design. Same video, same component, everything there. But we want to definitely make sure that you guys get a chance to post that, right? So if you haven't had a chance to, great. If you have, great. If you haven't had a chance to, tonight will definitely be the time to do that. So we'll set you up with that. So you'll definitely have some time this evening to put it all together. Make sure that if you haven't done so, put it in. Do that tonight, and we'll get you those points, okay? Because I'm a big believer in giving you guys a little bit of opportunities to kind of get caught up there, okay? So we'll make sure that we get that going and get that set up, all right? So I think we'll get you a time to do that. As a matter of fact, I'll let you guys do that independently tonight, okay? Let's go over principles of design and go over those details. And when we start that, then at some point this evening, if you can get to the getting paid to think discussion and watch it and share your opinion, and then come back to the principles of design, that'll be perfect, okay? So if that works for you, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji, and then we'll kind of set you up there, okay? All right, very cool. Sounds good. All right, we're in agreement. Beautiful. Okay, so principles of design. This is a very, very important unit because the whole purpose of this project is to be able to see and to be able to interpret design. And we had a lot of information last time during class. There was a lot of stuff that we went over. But ultimately, what we're going to be doing is creating a presentation, a Google slide presentation, where you take your 10 favorite images from just about anywhere, right? Photographs, posters, anime drawings, t-shirts, you name it, it's open. Everything except for like actual photos of pottery and objects, things of that sort, right? So we want to make sure that you pick your favorite, because it's always easier to write about graphics that are your favorite. A couple of students were saying, hey, professor, can I write about like my own artwork, or the company that I work with, if they have art, can I like break that down in my analysis? Absolutely. Anything that's graphic is open, and that's totally fine. So you're totally okay to use anything and everything for your disposal, okay? So that's totally fine. For packaging design, you guys are basically looking for 10 images of packages. 5 of them are going to be like really good packages that are successful, which the post is available right now. And I want to get you that in just a few moments. And bad ones, right? Like, what are some bad packages? So whereas like digital illustration is going to be focusing on 10 favorites, you're going to be looking for like 5 favorites, but 5 really bad examples of packaging. Okay. And the reason we're doing that is so that you can see, what's considered good, what's considered bad. Only way we're going to know is by kind of looking at the principles. So we'll look at that in just a couple of minutes, but I did put in the video onto Canvas. So if you want to take a look, that lecture is up there. I re-recorded it. And so that way it was clear. And then the last like 10 minutes, I go into the 10 minutes of the video from day 7, the day 7 post actually goes a little bit over those details. So I actually show a couple of slides, and there's also a template available that you guys can copy and start with so that you can kind of build off of it. Because I know it's going to be slightly different than a previous project or last semester's project or this digital illustration version of it. Okay. So for those folks that are in packaging, let me do this for you guys just to kind of make life a little bit easier. I'm going to create a breakout room because I felt like the breakout room was a little bit more effective. And if you are super comfortable with pretty much everything that's happening and you want to move forward, I'm going to create a packaging design breakout room. And then that'll be like the place where you can go to, you can work, and you won't be distracted from anything that I'm talking about, right? And now that'll be fair, I think. And then I'll come in to kind of review some of the designs and go over some of the lecture, right? If you are in packaging design, let's say you never had me before, this is your first time, and you're kind of curious about digital illustration and more specifically the principles of design. If you want to stick around, you're totally okay with sticking around and just catching like a quick recap of principles of design and just hearing what I have to say. And if you're feeling really comfortable, then go for it. Like, you're more than welcome to stick around and get your fill in. And maybe you'll catch something, which I heard a few of you guys did from last time. And that is, that's totally fine too. So I want to give you guys some choices, and that way you can set that up and you're good to go. Okay. So if you want to stick around and hear me talk a little about digital illustration, great. If you feel like, oh, hey, professor, I'm good. This is kind of making all sense to me and everything's, really good, really decent. And hey, I got no qualms, no problems or anything of that sort. Then I'm going to open up a room for packaging design. You guys can click onto it, get a little bit of private time, a little quiet time. You don't have to hear me go off on the camera. And you are totally okay with going into that room and start looking for the packaging examples using the template and watching the video from that I re-recorded that specifically talks about the project. So feel free to go into that breakout room if you're feeling real comfortable and you're like, I got this, professor, thanks. I'll see you in a few minutes when you're done and we'll talk. So you have that option of going in there as well. Okay. So feel free to click onto it, and then that'll give you some private room time, and you can go that direction as well. And I already see a few folks going into it, so that's cool. I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Again, everything's on Canvas, and I'll check in with you guys in just a few. Okay. All right. Muy bueno. Sounds good. All right. So now that we're getting a feel for that, then let's talk about principles of design. Okay, for everyone that's here. So principles of design. Boy, oh boy, that is so important. Let me just kind of break it down first, and let's start off with an image. Let's start with that. We'll start with that first. Okay. Now, the whole reason we're doing this, guys, is so that I can show you, I can teach you how I see design. And I really, really want you to capture what the 6 core are and really know how to see it, how to describe it. And ultimately, when you can describe it, that means you can reverse engineer it. And if you can reverse engineer it, that means that you know the tools, the methods for creating that kind of design and artwork. You've in effect kind of taught yourself a technique for that look, for that design, and that's a very powerful thing to say, right? Like the fact that you can like see a design and say, oh, that's the focal point. It's asymmetrically balanced. They're using these types of colors. Like all these things is really just you teaching yourself how that design was created. And that's actually like a pretty important thing to have. That's like a huge feature and a huge benefit to you guys, right? And when you have that, and let me go ahead and switch over so I can kind of hear you guys a little bit more clearly. When you have that, I mean, you have the tools, and you no longer really have to like ask anyone if something looks good. You can just automatically look at something and say, well, you know what, this design looks successful. And I'm okay with that. That is totally fine. This design is very, very successful, and here's why. And not only that, if you can kind of break it down and say why that design is successful, then guess what? You can actually now talk your talk and explain to a client, to a viewer, to anybody, a social media follower, anyone that asks, like, what makes this image so great? That's totally great. Like you have this tool, you have this skill set. So at the end of the day, it really does 3 things. 1, it teaches you how to be confident and know that that's the coolest thing that's on your screen. 2, it allows you to keep those strategies on how the design was made, so you can use it, mix and match it for other projects in the future. And 3, you can basically articulate this stuff. And if a client ever asks or challenges you, says, well, why is this design even successful? You can say, hey, you know what? Here's the reason why. Clear focal point, asymmetrical balance, which makes it visually pleasing. It has varieties of shapes and colors, which makes the shape dynamic. There's probably a sense of movement. It's showing off. It has surrealism built into it, so it makes it even more engaging. There's a level of abstraction which engages the user and makes them coming back for more. And ultimately, that's why it's going to cost like $5,000 for this work. Do you see what I see? And they go, oh wow, okay, okay, that's totally fine. I totally get what you're saying, right? And so it's all about being able to convince yourself and then convince others why these designs are successful, right? And so it has 3 major purposes. So let's just take some time and let's literally like look at some of these designs and see how it all kind of plays apart, okay? Now, You guys could totally go on to Canvas if you want and pull up your principles of design sheet if that helps you. I know it looks a little bit small on my screen, so we'll definitely try to get a little bit more space here. But we see this image here. I'm going to increase the size just to make it work. But let's kind of do this together, okay? Now, if we're looking at this image, and I want to pull up the 6 core. So actually, I want to do not that slide, but this slide. There we go. We're going to use this slide. If you notice in red, there's 6 core principles of design, right? Contrast, focal point, balance, proportion, scale, harmony, variety. Those are the 6 that all designs have at fundamentally, right? Like minimum, they all have the 6. My question is, based on this image that we see here, then do you see those 6 principles? Okay, so let's go down the list. Okay, in the chat, share with me what the 6 principles are, but more importantly, what they are and what elements are at play. So I think we're going to definitely need to kind of modify this graphic a little bit. So let's see if I can kind of move it off to the side, and let's see if we can kind of play with it just a little bit there. So I think that hopefully, well, let's keep it big. How about that? Because if you have the document, you can refer to it. Okay. So take a look at this graphic and type in the chat, what are like the principles of design that you see happening in this image? Okay. Take a moment, okay, to kind of break that down and tell me what is the principle, but more importantly, how that principle is showing up. And I'll do even better than that. I'll one up you. Here's a formula you can write for the sentence. This design has blank, name the principle, because it is using and call out an element, which is, a certain type of line, certain type of shape, specific color, texture, value, or shade. Try to get as specific as possible in your as you're typing it in the chat. So let's pick like a couple and let's kind of share that a little bit. But what is a principle you see, and use that formula to kind of help explain that. So let's break that down. Boom. Here we go. Much better. That way you can see it there. Okay. And take a moment to type that statement in, and then we'll see. So what are some principles that you see happening within this particular image? Okay. Go ahead and do that, and then I'll kind of wait to see what some of the things you're saying are. And while that's happening, I'm going to disconnect the AirPod, make sure I'm not overhearing anything. And see how that goes. So hopefully there's some sound coming in the background there.
Profe, can we see the image again?
Yes, here you go. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. And the audio is coming in, but the sound's not in my music. Oh well, I gotta have the music. Music is currently turned all the way down. Okay. So that is there. Sound coming in. Everybody's currently in use. Interesting. Sorry guys, I'm trying to play some sounds in the background. It's not coming through. I don't know if you guys can hear it. If you are, that's great. For me, it's not. All right, I guess we'll try a second there. And if you're currently typing, you can go ahead and give me a little thumbs up emoji. Just want to make sure, see if it's making sense for you guys. But if it's making sense, awesome. Okay, perfect. Want to make sure that you guys have plenty of time to kind of experiment with that. That'll give me time. Some sound in the background. Great. Let's go with maybe an 80s synth wave might be interesting. Am I ready for 10 hours of 80s synth wave? Whoa, probably. Oh, that is a pretty 80s synth wave. All right, we'll see. We'll see how that works. If you're okay with it, you can give me a thumbs up. If you're like, nah, I don't know about that one, Professor, give me a thumbs down. It kind of goes with the colorful background, probably. Sorry, I'm an 80s kid. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Okay, and then read some of the comments there. Not coming through. Ah, that's probably explains why. Yeah, Yeah, it's supposed to say that it's sharing sound. Oh, I smell a restart. So I'll play the music during the I'll restart the systems during break, and then we'll kind of go forward from there. But for some reason, it's not coming in. And I think it's probably because I went from Bluetooth to like regular, so that's probably the idea. But I don't want to interrupt the flow when it comes to that. So apparently it is running, but it's just not coming in as clear as it should. So trying to reset it. Maybe it'll play, maybe it won't. Who knows? Oh, okay, perfect. There you go. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Zoom. I love technology. Sometimes technology does not like me. This one has no commercials. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here at some of the replies that you guys had. Okay. So this design is using scale because the crowd and the trees in the background creates a relationship and dimension. Okay. So if we were going down the list here, so scale and proportion, that's one principle. So going back to the list, okay, we got scale and proportion. So that's a core, right? Something bigger, something smaller. So that's always going to be something that we see in our designs for sure. So this particular design that we see has scaling. So bigger, smaller trees in the background creates dimension, right? Something bigger, something smaller. When things look a little bit larger, they always come towards us, right? So that's always something to kind of keep in mind. So if I put those principles there, that's great. In fact, let's go ahead and take some of these images and get that in there. So boom, perfect. So that's going to help in the design. So for sure. So I like that. Ellie says, this design incorporates the principle of designs by showing elements of movement, by the way that people are painted in motion and showing a lot of action. So yes, so in this one, I would probably say if there is the principle of movement, it's created by, the way the figures or the individuals in the image are moving. And more specifically, the lines and the elements are drawn at angles. So anything that's at an angle is always representative of movement, right? Angles are symbols for movement because an angle can basically represent things going in that direction, right? Things that fly, birds, typically move at an angle, unless of course it's a helicopter, but typically they go at an incline of some sort. So that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind, right? Anything at an angle is a reflection of movement. So that's a technique. So that's acceptable. That works great. Elizabeth said this design is using contrasting colors and size. So yeah, contrasting colors and size. We see the purple in the front and a brighter color, and the surrounding people a darker tone used to create a focal point. So yeah, so contrast, that's a good point that you're making. So contrast and focal point are married to each other, right? If there is a focal point, there will always be contrast, because the design or designs will always, in order to get someone to see something, there's got to be something that's different from it. Does that make sense? So we notice things, but there's really something that's separating it out or making it stand out or contrasting. So we know, so really a focal point is really saying there's a difference here in this image, and this thing is standing out because this other thing is making it stand out. So that's kind of like the image that Elizabeth's saying, right? That sort of face or that flag sort of element that's sort of in the center towards the top. You could argue that that's like a focal point there, right? Or the front, the people that are standing in front in the brighter white dresses or white outfits, and everyone is in this darker outfit. You know, these are focal points, right? Or that is the focal point. So the darker tones are different from the person or the people that are in the brighter color tone, right? That's contrast. So just by creating that difference, I'm seeing right in front of me the thing that the designer wants me to see. Okay. Focal point, because the crowd creates this circular shape around the people and that the crowd is surrounding. So looking at more closely, design using a focal point because the crowd creates the circle shape around that. Oh yeah. So there is a focal point of those individuals, and it sounds like, Dre, that you're using more space. So the way I would say that also, that's another way of kind of making the focal point stand out, is that this design is using focal point as seen in the space or the circular space found at the bottom of the image. So because if I look at this particular graphic here and I use some of my annotation tools, there is like a space within this area that I'm in there that is negative. So that is empty or predominantly empty, and the remaining area is mostly filled. So that space, that's another way that focal point's being created. I actually never really noticed that, to be honest, because it was mostly color, size, and shape. But you're noticing from space that the spacing that's being used is creating a focal point. So that space is empty in the red oval, everything else is filled. Now it's getting me to look into that specific area where the two figures are. So that's a good call out. That actually reinforces that as a focal point. This design has a variety of colors. So that's great. Jesus, variety is a principle. That's a core that's listed, that's in the red arrows, because of different intensities of lightness. Darker earth tones, as well as other colors that accentuate them: reds, blues, greens, yellows, oranges. So that's great. That's a really good example, because you're telling me the principle and you're giving me the specific element at play and how those colors are breaking down. Now that you've called it out, at some level, I know that, hey, that's a strategy that you can maybe bring into your designs, right? So you can use colors to create contrast, or like Dre said, we can use space to create contrast. So you see how, like, when you actually like call it out and speak and can actually explain how things are being created, how it kind of goes, it brings an awareness that kind of goes into your memory banks, and it's all techniques and strategies that you can use for the future. Okay. There is a contrast in the design. The image has more luminance in the center and darker on the sides. So brightness and darkness. Yeah. Really interesting how contrast is showing up in different ways: contrasting sizes, contrasting colors, contrasting shapes, right? Or sometimes all of the above. These are all ways that you can create contrast yourself, guys. Moreover, there's balance in the image. Okay. Now, Nidhi, you kind of got a little bit of a head start. So if you said balance, right, then is it symmetrical or asymmetrical? Okay, that's kind of the big question, right? So if it's symmetrical or asymmetrical, then what would you say it is? Then it's asymmetrical. Yeah, why? Because what's on the left is not equal to the right. The left side of the canvas is completely different than the right-hand side. And I mentioned this last week. I said that if you want to create successful designs, you always want to create asymmetrical balance, or at least always go for asymmetrical balance. It will always look better. Now there will always be things to create symmetrically, right? For good reason. But I always find that graphic designers will create symmetricals sort of instinctively without really focusing on the asymmetrical component, if that makes sense. So I heard my wife say she had a question. So you have a question?
Yeah, I have a student who needs help.
You have a student that needs help?
Yeah.
Yes.
Incognito, where do they go to that to open a new incognito window?
In Chrome, if
Yeah.
you go up to, excuse me one second, guys. Control-Shift-N.
Thank you.
Dre, I love you. On Google. That's what I'm talking about. 3 dots on the right in Google. You guys are awesome. Yeah, you guys get bonus points for that. Look at you guys, you're on it. All right, good job, guys. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Okay, my wife really has to make an appearance tonight. I seriously, really, you've heard her enough times. I think I'm gonna get her in tonight. Is that cool with you guys? Should we bring her in on that? A little thumbs up emoji. It's like, just get her in the camera just for a minute and just introduce to everybody. Yeah, you've heard her enough times. It's like you should be formally introduced. There. Yeah, Oscar, I remember she actually did say that she did say that she spoke to you in counseling last week. So that's actually kind of cool. You spoke to her last week. So Oscar spoke to Vanessa regarding some courses that he wanted to review, and during counseling hours, and I overheard her say like, "Do you have Almena?" She's like, "Oh yeah, that's my husband's." Like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, she did mention it. So so thanks for the positive review for the class. Okay, so rewind. Asymmetrical balance, right? You always want to aim for asymmetrical balance, right? Most professors will not even tell you this. I'm telling you, is you always go for asymmetrical. Okay, hopefully that shows up on the microphone. Why? Asymmetrical looks more interesting. If you walk the museums, you would see more asymmetrical designs. Like if you know, like just go to, you know, any online museum, Google the Google Art Project, or the site that I basically gave you the link with all the Google museums. If you look closely, most of the designs that you see there, paintings, graphics, photographs, are predominantly off the center. The focal points are off the center on average, more so than anything else. What does that mean? That means that all design should be asymmetrical to an extent. It just looks more interesting, right? There are exceptions, t-shirts, right? I mean, it's, you know, our bodies are symmetrical. So it makes sense if we had somewhat of, you've probably seen more symmetry in a t-shirt design because the human body is symmetrical, right? So that makes sense in that context. But outside something that's symmetrical, or the body itself, it should be mostly asymmetrical, because most things in the world visually are asymmetrical, right? So always aim for asymmetry, and the short answer is that the left side is different than the right. So if you say something like it's asymmetrical because we have a dark shadowy figure on the left, which is not on the right side of the figure, and there is right here on this section, there is a little shadow figure here. That figure, and a number of different figures, actually, you can even say the child and even this individual here. These three figures are dominating the left, or you could even say that the face is dominating the left side of the image, or these multiple elements are dominating the left side of the canvas or the image versus the right-hand side, which does not, right? So anything to differentiate is always going to be really helpful, right? So always go asymmetrical in the design, and you will see a 10x improvement in the work automatically. Okay, I've taught it for decades, and I've always taught it decades, a little over a decade. But from all the work that we've seen throughout the decades, mostly it's asymmetrical on average. Okay, so yeah, definitely works for asymmetry, Nidhias. That's great. Okay. Moving on, let's take a look at some of the other call outs that we see in the chat. Okay. The center of the image is like most important part of the image, therefore it's the emphasis or the focal point. So Jonathan, for that one, I would probably say if the center is the most important part of the image, it's a focal point. Well, not necessarily, right? Going back to asymmetrical, what I just said, not everything in the center is technically the most important. What is the largest or the most contrasting element is the most important, if that makes sense, right? And so when it's a contrast, then there are different types of contrast that kind of play a part. And so it's really in the contrast and how the contrast is being created that is the focal point. So contrast is key. Contrast is really what's going to make the design stand out overall in your graphic. So contrasting sizes, contrasting shapes, contrasting colors. Okay, so something bigger versus other things that are smaller. That's contrasting size. And we'll see more of it, right? I'll show you examples. Something that's different color than everything else, or something that's a lighter or darker versus everything else. It's those key differences that kind of create the focal point. So getting into that mindset will help you tremendously in your design. Okay. Design principle using its focal point. Image focuses on the center crowd, which also allows us to see the face and the banner. So the image focuses on the center of the crowd. So again, focal point is always going to be that comment of like, what's bigger, what's smaller, what's contrasting size, shape, or color. Okay. So if you can call out the thing that is either contrasting in size, contrasting in shape, or contrasting in color, or contrasting in space, as Drake called out, that's because I haven't noticed that one ever, then those are other ways to kind of build it up. Okay. Okay. Let's take a look. So proportion scale, let's talk about harmony for this one because harmony and variety are always a little tricky. Okay. So looking at this image, focal point, contrast, proportion scale, harmony, and variety. If we had to say harmony, and we thought about the elements of design, okay, then what are some of the elements that are happening in the design here that are similar, or what is similar going on with the elements here? So I want to zoom in on that for just a second. So let's just talk about the elements, okay, not the principles, but the elements. Harmony means there's a lot of the same thing going on. So do you see a lot of the same lines, a lot of the same shapes, a lot of the same values, colors, spaces? What do you see a lot more of in terms of the elements? A lot more of element equals harmony. That's like the stuff that brings the design all together. If I was to put a 3D Mickey Mouse Clubhouse little graphic in this, totally throws it off. Why? Because it's too bright. Oh, well, why is it too bright? Because everything else is a certain color. So I like to think of it like that. It's like if something got thrown in that was completely off, then why would it make it off? Well, because the painting is mostly this and that graphic's mostly that. So it's kind of how you want to imagine it. Like if some weird graphic got slapped in there, then what makes it so different from all the rest? And that difference is really the harmony, right? Color of the crowd, right? So the color is similar. What are those colors is the question. Organic shapes, yeah. There's a lot of people. People are organic, so there's a lot of organic forms. Trees are organic. Clouds are organic. Excuse me. So there's little to no geometry. So there's a lot of organic shapes. So all these forms throughout kind of makes the thing come together, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So why would the hundreds of people create harmony? Organics, yeah. Because people, we are all organic shapes, right? We're not perfect squares or triangles, Drake. So looking at people outside of like people, but actually looking at people at the images of people as shapes and form will open up your mind to all the design and possibilities out there, if that makes sense, right? There's a lot more of elements. So which is, equals harmony. Exactly. So when you see more of elements, similar elements, that equals harmony. So Professor, how do I create more harmony? You decide. Like, if you want to create more harmony in your design, then, pick a lot more shapes or similar shapes, a lot more organic forms, a lot more geometric shapes, make everything the same shade, make everything spaced out similarly, make everything the similar colors or brightnesses of colors or types of, or certain sets of colors or two or three colors mostly, right? Make everything similar in lines. Does that make sense? Like, that's how you kind of make it look good from a harmony standpoint, okay? And if that totally makes sense, you can give me like a little, thumbs up where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. Like, that's how you actually like make it look good visually and bring it all together, right? So that element, that core principle is like key, and most students get a little bit thrown off. They're like, oh, what do you mean? Like, what the heck is harmony? So that's really what it is. So variety, right, is like, then what are some of the little differences, right? And sometimes the differences could be the same thing, right? So going back to this image again, right? Like, variety means differences. What are some of the differences or some of the minor differences happening in this design, right? Because if everything was the same, it'd be a pretty boring world, right? Everything would look too clean, too, boring in a sense. So we have to have a little variety, right? Like, we need to have, a little personality in the graphic. And that means that the same thing, certain elements might be different. So what are some differences, or what are some things that are different that you're noticing in this image that are just like if a 5-year-old walked into the room and saw your screen and said, oh, I see different this, what are some different elements that are sprinkled around in this design? Let's take a look. Spacing is close together, making the people in the front look closer and the ones in the back further away. Hopefully that's variety. But spacing, everyone spaced closer together can be harmony. using spacing. Not any object looks exactly the same nor in the same position. That creates variety. Yeah, totally, Ellie. So if yeah, they're, even though they're organic, they're not all the same. They're all various organic forms, right? So that's a little hint, right? Because if you pick that up, guess what you're gonna do now? Oh, I understand that. You're gonna now bring that into your own design. Does that make sense? Because you notice something that most people don't notice, and that's how you get better as a designer. The more you notice the principles and the elements that are going into it, the more they're at play, the more you can kind of nitpick it specifically. You're giving yourself specific colors, specific shapes, specific methods, specific principles, and how to create your own unique looking design, which makes it pleasing visually. Does that make sense? So people go, why am I writing this stuff out? It's because I'm trying to get you to reverse engineer it so that you can plug in your Hello Kitty or your weird something face, or you can plug in a modern version of somebody dressed in white. Maybe it's suits for the 21st century, right? You're going to take the principles that never change and plug it in with graphics that are of today. Does that make sense? And so that's what makes this stuff unique. I can guarantee that, well, if we zoom in graphic design for like the last 10 years, I'm probably pretty sure that somebody maybe took this image and was inspired by or some of the principles and put it into their own design. They just used photographs or drew their own drawings, that sort of thing. Okay, does that make sense? Is that exactly? Deconstruct the image to understand it. So that's at the key. And I'll be the first to admit, in the beginning, this stuff was not easy because it was like, damn, I have to really analyze this. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of how you're gonna get good at this, right? So, so I'm not expecting you to do it overnight, but I do kind of expect you to kind of flex that muscle, because that's the 80s song I hear. It's very 80s, like Rocky. Like you guys want to go in there and go after that image, right? And really deconstruct it. And we're gonna take some time tonight to calmly deconstruct. Okay, are you gonna see all the principles? Not so much, but that's why I'm here. That way you can share your screen and say, I can't see the harmony. Where's the harmony? And that's totally valid, right? If you do it enough times, it becomes like second nature. When it becomes second nature, it turns into lifestyle. And before you know it, you wake up one morning and you go, whoa, my work actually looks good. And it's broken down positively. Okay. So that's kind of the breakdown. Okay. Is this making sense? Is this kind of giving everybody a little bit of a breakdown? Okay. Now I've really gone into the principles. Okay. I really want to get you guys writing so you can write about your stuff. Okay. So at the end of the day, Professor, you're saying that all design have 6 core principles. Oh yeah, for sure. All I got to do is make my designs focus on those 6 and it'll look good. Yes. There's only 6 you got to worry about. Okay. Can I add more? Yes, you can add more if you want to, but ultimately, it's all about those 6. That's it. You only have to worry about 6. Okay. Makes life a whole lot easier. Okay. And the design looks better. I will eventually say something where I'll say like, abstraction. Okay. There is a trick, and it comes in the abstraction arrow here. One of the most famous graphic designers, Paul Rand, who is considered the godfather of graphic design in the 20th century, now 21st century, said that, graphic design are all these things, but the thing that gets people's attention is the stuff we can't really like make out. In other words, if I look at his designs, always had this little thing of like, I don't know if it's a face or if it's this or if it's that. He always threw a little abstraction, and for abstraction, it means that there's no basis in reality. And I think this is a really important thing that I think that they don't teach in school, which is if you can bring a little abstraction into your designs, it's gonna make people want to look at it a little bit longer and make them kind of think twice. And because people like to get curious. When people look at your design and they get curious about one little thing or multiple things on your design, the neuroscience says that thing that makes them curious is the same chemicals that make people happy. So when we're at like in a happy state, curiosity actually brings positive emotions, which is, and Rand did not know that at the time. He didn't have that science then. Today we know that a state of curiosity actually produces these chemicals that are related to positivity, positive thoughts, positive mentality. And so dopamine, basically, to a degree. So when you can throw in a little curiosity, people automatically start to think positively about your design. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Like if somebody says, hey, I'm going to take you out to a nice place to eat. Oh, okay. You get curious, you get pretty happy, right? Same idea. If we can throw a little abstraction, something that people don't know what it is, it kind of looks like this, maybe it looks like that, but it's not specific. That little curiosity in your design will bring a positive effect and make people want to look at it longer. And we'll get into that later, but I just wanted to throw that little nugget because once you can brings abstraction, it looks a lot better. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's a little secret nugget in the graphic design world. Okay. All right. Let's talk about creating a presentation. Let's get super practical here. Okay. Now, Ashley's in the next room. I found a sample, but let me go ahead and let's create or show you a presentation and where we're going to go. So how is this stuff going to get turned in, Professor? Tell me, because I want to leave you time to work. Okay, so first thing we want to do is that we can create a graphic, and let me see if I can pull that up. Principles of design, and we're gonna create a principles of design. Oh, Vanessa, you're gonna meet the class tonight, they said.
Okay.
She's like, what? Like, you're gonna meet the class tonight. Okay, so let's open it up. As a matter of fact, let's open up Google Drive. We're just gonna step this out super easy for everybody. So if you have your Rio Rio Hondo Gmail, let's jump into Gmail for a second, guys. And we're gonna do this step by step. So we'll take a minute to kind of build this out. So if you feel comfortable with PowerPoint, you can use PowerPoint. We're going to use Google Slides for this one, so feel free. But we're going to do a Google slide. So I'm going to open up slides.google.com or Drive. And if you have Drive, Google Drive, we're going to go to New. Oh, and not create a folder. And we're going to go down here on my left to new folder. Okay. New Google slide. Okay. And you can create a blank presentation or you can create a template, whichever you feel comfortable with. Okay. And if I'm going way too fast, let me take out the gray squares. I'm so sorry, guys. I keep on forgetting that gray squares block it. But if it's but if I'm going a little too fast, you can give me like a little red X and say like, hey, slow down, Professor, you're going a little too fast, bro. That way I can kind of slow it down for you because I'm going a little bit too fast, okay? Okay, so we're gonna go to Google Slides and you can create a blank presentation or you can create from a template, okay? Let's go to template, then just pick one. Pick any template you want, whatever you feel you're comfortable with, okay? Doesn't have to get too fancy. It could be a personal one, portfolio, lookbook, super generic, general presentation. You get to pick. So whichever you feel most comfortable with. So. Or you can create a blank one, okay? Let's just create a blank one, if that helps. Do I have one here? No. You don't have a button for blank? General presentation, that's fine. I'll go with the general presentation. Okay. And again, if I'm going a little too fast, you can go ahead and hit like the little X and be like, slow down, or you can type it in as well. It's all family, so we're not gonna get mad at, I'm not gonna get upset, right? Okay, general presentation. Okay, we're gonna call this your principles of design, okay? So upper left, you can rename it by clicking onto it, principles of design. Principles of design. And we can even go down to presentation here. And we're gonna type in also principles of design. Okay. And your cover is gonna be your first name and last name, okay? Whoop, yeah. First name, last name, okay? Okay, first name and last name, beautiful, okay? And again, if you wanna, design it and make it look, very interesting visually, then that's okay. Okay, principles of design, first name, last name. So that's one slide, 10 more to go, which obviously are your 10 images. I'm gonna take my template here and I'm basically just gonna delete most of this so I can get something that is a half image, right? So if you have something like this, that's okay. If you want to use a blank one, that's okay. Or a 3/4 section one, that's totally fine. I'm just gonna go with this one. And basically, we're gonna like format it out so that it's for text. Okay, so that is obviously the image one. And you can move it up, or you can create like a completely new text box also. I'll just create a new text box here. Okay. And whoop. And this basically will be the name of your image. Okay, you can call it image one too. If you don't have the name of the design, do not worry about it. I'm more concerned about the actual analysis. So if you just know it as, in this image or in image number one, totally fine. If you know the name of the design, okay, great. But ultimately we want those principles that we're looking for, okay? Gonna bring down the size. And you can use this photograph actually. So we can use that as an example. And in image one, I'm basically gonna revert back to my Google document. So if you remember, we kind of created this Google document, and that's no, that's not that one. Let's go back to the Google Doc where we kind of had color codes. So if you remember, there was like 2 green and 6 red and 1 yellow. We'll go into that. I go into my recents. Things are moving a little bit slower, but we'll revert to that in just a couple of seconds. And we'll go into copy principles, James Schaefer. Yeah, that's that one. So if you recall, if you have that document, you can use that. And here it is, right? So you can totally use this format and type out those principles of design. So this writing style is basically going to go into this particular image, okay? So going into my slide, you know, let's go ahead and type it out. Okay. So in this image, or really photograph, there are multiple principles of design. That's sentence number 1. Sentence 2. The principles of design are, call out the core 6, right? They will always be the same. That's the nice part. Focal point, contrast, balance, proportion / scale, harmony, and variety. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There it goes. And then now begin to call it out, right? The first principle, you can go down the list too, we see is a focal point found in the enlarged image of the, that looks like a, I guess that's kind of like the ladder for the, so that looks like a pier or some type of swimming pier. And so that's how it should say, that's basically there. Question, should it always have the 6 core principles of design? Yes. All successful design will always have those 6. That's kind of the idea, right? So without typing it out, is there a focal point in my photograph? Yes, that the ladder or that curved object on the right is the focal point. Okay, and so I'll kind of try to point it out. So this image is the focal point, right? This large object. Is it contrast? Yeah, it totally contrasts. The size of this image is basically bigger than the background and most of the other images in the background. So it's a focal point because it's bigger than everything else. So that's contrasting sizes, right? You can even say contrasting color because the shading on that is metallic or slightly darker shades of gray versus the other images of gray that are in the background, okay? This is just an example, Oscar, yeah. So, I mean, if you want to take this, fine, you can use that, right? Feel free. But that's the second principle. Third principle is balance. That image, the left is not equal to the right, so therefore it's asymmetrical, right? So that's the asymmetry there. Harmony, well, what's similar? If I look at this, you know, I see a lot of mountains, water ripples, and that metal object. And if I drew those out, I would be drawing those out as, you guessed it, organic shapes. So even though this is a photograph of mountains, water, and this object, if I was to draw it, I would be drawing it with organic shapes. So so the image is predominantly, or the photograph is predominantly made or has harmony of organic forms or shapes in the landscape, right? Followed in part by variety, which are different. What's the differences? Well, the obvious one would be the color. On the lower left, that pier is a much darker color than everything else. So right there within that photograph, I see 6 core principles, right? So photographs, successful designs will always see the core 6. So for the remaining class time, I know there's gonna be somebody out there who's like, Professor, I got an image. Where's the harmony? Or where's this, where's that? That is completely normal. That I'm here to support you and kind of help you see what I see. Does that make sense? So if you're like, I can't find this, let's dig deep. I'll give everybody sharing or screen access, or you can upload the image onto the chat and I can click onto it and then we can talk about it. Okay. Does that kind of help? Does that kind of break down things a little bit more clearly for you guys? Okay. If it does, you can give me like a little thumbs up, and that's helpful. Okay, cool. Okay. So let's do a couple of slides and then let's go for like about an hour. So let's do this. Let's do a 10-minute break. Okay. I'm going to try to see if I can bring my wife in so you can say hi. And then after the break, or when we come back from break, you say hi to my wife. For the remaining class time, we start typing away. And at like about the 9 o'clock hour, I'll check in and be like, hey, can you share with me a slide or two? Or I'm here online. If you have a question during that time, 8 o'clock hour, you can send me a couple of pictures and say, hey, professor, where's this? Where's that? So then that way I can help you kind of see the way I would see it. Does that make sense? So I just kind of want to get a rundown for that. And it sounds like that'll work for everybody. If it does, you can give me like a little thumbs up there. Okay. Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. Very cool. All right. Perfect. All right, guys. I want to make sure that it's making complete sense and it's totally understanding, which it looks like it is. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Let's do it. Let's take a little break. We'll do 10 minutes. Okay. I'm going to check in on packaging design, see how they're doing. But obviously the room will be open. So I'll be back in 10 once I check in with everyone there. Okay. Oh, Nita, you had a quick question you said. Go for it. Type it in or things of that sort. And oh, no. This assignment's due a week from today. So you got a whole week to work on this. Does that make sense? So this is going to take some time, guys. It's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm not expecting everyone to know design overnight. And why is my screen going loco? Here we go. I totally don't. This is going to take some practice. That's why this stuff is at the beginning of the 2-week principles of design. Like we're going to take like a good this week and next week to look at designs and like really break this stuff down. So that the more we practice, the better you're going to get. And you will get better because everyone last semester and the semesters before have always said, yeah, once you drilled me professor, then I was good. So we're going to drill, we're going to practice, and it's not as bad as it sounds, guys, because you know specifically the 6, and that's like half the battle right there. What are the 6 and can you call it out? Total slides would be 11 counting the intro. Yes, that is absolutely correct. So very good. Okay, cool. So you guys take a break, go for 10, okay? I'm going to check in on packaging design, see how they're doing. And when we get back, you can say hi to my wife. I'll introduce her so that way you can see who the voice behind the scene is. And then we'll do some writing and you can ask me some questions, specific questions on certain principles for your graphics, okay? It'll be fun. You'll be good, guys. You actually will enjoy it a lot just because you like the artwork that you show. Okay, I will return. Take a break, go for a walk, grab some soda, bring a snack, get some sugar, and I will be back in just a few moments, guys. All right, enjoy. It's gonna get quiet too, so if you want to play your music, go for it. So. Let's see, I'm gonna join this room. Yes. Okay, hey guys, back again. So hopefully we got a chance to continue on. I know there was a little bit of a break, so hopefully you got back. But I took a few minutes to connect with the packaging design class, and now I wanted to come back and before we start looking into some of your designs, answer any questions, I just want to quickly introduce to you my wife, Miss Vanessa Chavez. So if you feel comfortable, feel free to activate your cameras if you want to. It's totally open if you wish. And so that way she can kind of see you, get a little bit of a vibe and see how everyone is doing. But I just wanted to take a moment to kind of introduce her, and hopefully she's already telling me like, wrap it up. But let me go ahead and have her jump in so that she can kind of talk to you guys. So this is, let me go ahead and get her in. This is Miss Chavez, or my wife, Vanessa. So you can say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going?
This is the voice that you've been hearing. And so just wanted to kind of introduce herself really quick and say hello and share a little bit about herself. So
Yeah, so it's nice to see you guys. So I'm a counselor at the college, and I've been working at the college for quite a few years now. I actually was a student at Rio Hondo, and it was at Rio Hondo that I decided I wanted to do counseling specifically for community college students. So I really like working with students and figuring out their paths, their careers, their majors, and just guiding them to the next steps. So so it's a field that I enjoy, and
What are you doing?
I'm talking to Daddy's students. You want to say hi?
I need you to help.
Help you?
Yeah. You
Okay.
Can sit on
Okay.
me on the
I will right now. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, so just wanted to come say hello, and if you ever have questions, feel free to send them to Miguel, or I can pop in and kind of answer them as we go. Where's Oscar? Oscar, do you mind trying on your video? Okay, well.
Oh, you said hi.
Oh, okay. I get to meet with I'm actually working with Oscar on some of his planning.
I'm here.
Oh, hey Oscar. Good news. Mr. Blackman approved the class.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was really happy to see that. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But
Okay,
anyhow,
thank you.
yeah, so if you're not working with a counselor, you really need to, okay? I know everyone's on a different journey, and you might only be taking this one class and that's it, or you might be new to school and you're trying to figure it out. That's why we're here to support you and make sure you're on the right journey, okay? And so yeah, just now you know somebody, so if you ever need help, then we're here to help you, okay?
And now you can put a face to the voice when you hear her asking what incognito and all this stuff. All right. All right.
And I always remind Miguel, don't keep them past 9:30. Let them go early. Look, for real, man.
Of course.
Okay.
We'll do our best. Okay.
It's voluntary.
It's voluntary. Schedule a meeting with the counselor.
How do we schedule? Oh,
Yeah. So good question.
the easiest way would be to call the general number. If you want to add it to the chat box.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I'll add it later.
okay. It's 562-908-3410. So 562. I feel like a radio announcer. 562-908-3410. Okay, that's our general counseling line. So they'll schedule you an appointment. The appointments are 45 minutes long. Don't feel like you have to have all the questions. The counselor will really guide you. Just tell them what you're shooting for, and then they'll start piecing it all together. Okay, so yeah, so that's where you'll meet with the counselor. If you want to meet with me specifically, then let Mr. Almeno know, and then we'll exchange emails, and then we'll schedule an appointment. Okay. But yeah, but it's very, very important just to kind of see where you're at and what you're working towards. Okay.
Okay. And Vanessa, what's my favorite color?
Oh gosh.
I'm kidding.
I don't know what your favorite color is, to be honest.
Okay, we're gonna talk. All right. Thank you.
I
Ms.
have no idea what your
Chavez.
favorite
Thank you
color
for
is.
joining us. We appreciate you. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, guys.
I don't know what your favorite color is.
Uh,
Yellow, because you're optimistic.
no, it's not yellow. Okay, guys. Moving on. So thank you guys for. I don't know. Should be playing like the dating game song or
We
something
didn't
like
do
that.
well with the dating game, remember?
Yeah, we'll get better. So moving on, guys. So thank you guys for taking the time. So yeah, so anything you need, general counseling numbers available there. And I want to thank Vanessa for joining us. So I just wanted to put a face to the voice, because we are still in pandemic, of course, and still making things happen. So okay, so just wanted to check in. Do we have any images that we want to go over? Does anyone have any questions they would like to kind of go over? I would love to take a peek at a graphic or two, if that's the case, and see if there's something we can look at. If it is, feel free to type it in the chat, or if you have a link, maybe you have your presentation link. If you want to put it in, I could put it on screen. I'll give everyone an opportunity to do multiple participants and share time simultaneously, and then we can go that direction there. Okay, so Dre, I know you had a question, so yeah, if you have your link, you can post it in, or if you can share
my screen if you.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and do that. You should be able to share screen.
All right, hopefully you can see this. I was just coloring this one.
Okay, so let's take a look.
I wanted you to look at this one because just for like the description, kind of my explanation.
Okay.
I wanted to tie in the elements, but I just kind of kept using color, you know. The patterns, painting, repetition, the same colors, dark contrast. That makes sense. But then it's like focal point with the people, only painting with color, only part of the painting with color.
Mm-hmm.
Harmony, amount of trees. There's a lot of trees. It's pretty harmonious.
Now for harmony, for that one, what I would say is like harmony is like, what do you see a lot of, right? So if I had to like break down the graphic, like, I would have to get to harmony. I normally ask myself like, what are the elements that are mostly happening in this image? And for me to do that, to kind of get to that answer, I have to kind of look at the image and kind of pretend as if I was drawing it again. And how would I draw it, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at this image, and we think of the elements of art, right? Line, shape, color, right? Then let's start with basics like lines. Then what kind of lines do we see? Straight or curvy lines?
I see a lot of organic lines with rocks, these trees right here.
Okay. So you hit something. You said, I see a lot of organic lines. Mm-hmm. So guess what is an element or guess what the harmony is? Yeah, there's a lot. The harmony is found through a large portion or a large percentage or a large number of organic shapes or organic lines found in the image. So instantly that's what it was. So by asking that simple question, you were able to get to the harmony answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a common one. That's always a little confusing for students because it's like, what is the harmony? It's like, it's more of a certain art element or multiple art elements. It depends. Okay. Proportion is present. So something bigger, something smaller.
Yeah, I was kind of focusing on this big tree right here, kind of on the right being the biggest element compared to really everything.
Yeah, and you can compare it to one thing, like the trees are the largest element compared to the most obvious element, like the people, right? So that's okay. That makes sense. And then you said varieties of colors. And so if you say colors, then, the more specific the colors, the better. Yeah. Variety of bright colors, variety of, blues and, pinks and yellows, right? Yeah. Right. So the more specific, the better. But what specific really is doing is kind of like teaching yourself the colors that you can even use for future projects, right? So by kind of deconstructing on a deeper level, you're really kind of teaching yourself what makes the design tick, which means that you can make your future designs tick in the same way or similar way, with different types of graphics or more contemporary graphics, things of that sort. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's looking good. But yeah, that's a good example, and that's making sense. So it's looking pretty good so far. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
All right, very cool. So hopefully that kind of helps with everybody a little bit there. If anyone else has a question or wants to share, you're more than welcome to. You could even private message it over to me, and then I can kind of take a quick peek. That's another option as well. But overall, is this kind of making sense for everybody? And if it is, like, oh, I get it, Professor, thumbs up. You can give me a little thumbs up emoji. Sometimes, like my wife says, like I have to be quiet and just let you guys work. So if it's making sense, that's great. Cool. Okay. Then that's perfect. Okay, great. I feel like I'm empowering you guys, which is wonderful. Okay, great. So then here's what I'll do. Then I'll be jumping back between rooms. If I'm in a different breakout room, then you're more than welcome to send a message or click the ask a question to the host. It'll send me a little pop-up, and then I'll zoom in and come back. But I'll be jumping back and forth between rooms if that helps. And then we'll basically before we finish for this evening, we'll take a look at some of your designs. Okay. Or if you feel like it, you can share one or two different concepts. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right, guys. I will be back. And if you need anything, just go ahead and push the ask a question button for the breakout room. So I will return. Let's go to the next breakout room. All right. Hey guys, just doing a quick check-in. If anyone has any questions, you can type it in the chat but I just wanted to check in. So far so good. Everyone feeling comfortable? If it is, you can give me a little emoji thumbs up and see how it goes. Okay, wonderful. Great, great, great. If you have any questions still, you can type it in the chat, or whenever I'm in a breakout room, there's a little button that says ask for assistance, and then that'll give me a little message saying connect with me and see how that goes. Okay. So just wanted to kind of see how you're doing there. And if you have a graphic that you need assistance with, feel free to send it over. Like I said, I'm going to start entering some scores. So if you got a chance to do any of the discussions tonight or the videos, then I'll punch them in. I'll be punching them in between now and next week. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So I'll be looking at posts, and if there's any questions, feel free to send them over. Okay. I'll try to see if I can put some tunes in the background, if that helps. And if you have any suggestions, yeah. Yeah. So Chris, good question. It can be any images, like pictures of people. Yes, if it's pictures of people or photographs of people, you can do that. As long as it's sort of like professionally photographed, I would say is helpful, or intentionally photographed. Because to take a photo professionally is a lot different than it is like randomly, or to take an image intentionally. Has some of the principles at play, like focal point, color, background, like figure foreground, background, right? So these are all factors. So if you can, if you know that these are intentionally photographed and not randomly photographed, right? Like it wasn't just like a quick like selfie, but there was actually an intention to photograph something to communicate a message, then you can totally use that for sure. But it can be literally any image, with the exception of like product, because if it's a photo of like pottery, it's if you're talking about like an object, like a pottery object, now you're getting to like packaging design. And so that's like the next class. So more flat photograph, drawing, poster, painting, anything that's two-dimensional or photographed is totally okay. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, very good. Cool. Okay. Okay, guys. We're down to like a couple more minutes, but I've been getting some really good questions, comments, things like that on the private chat, so that's good. And direct message. So just a couple of quick tips here. This will be due a week from today, so Thursday of next week. We'll be turning this in. So on Tuesday, we'll take a closer look, see how the designs are coming along. I'll have a couple more examples that we'll go through. But basically, I want to make sure I leave enough space for the principles of design, so then that way we can kind of keep exploring design. So I'll have a little warm-up question on Tuesday. So it's like, hey, can you guys call out the principles of designs for this image? The more that we deconstruct, the more we're going to feed the strategies to our mind, right? And so, the next couple of weeks is just seeing how to see the design. So little things, if you're missing little things and you feel it, like I'll pick up on it. And so we'll do a little share on Tuesday. Maybe we'll kind of like put up a slide, or maybe we can take a screenshot of a slide and then kind of see the designs that you look at or you see and how you're interpreting it. But we're going to keep flexing that muscle of deconstructing and how we can see it. And this is that college level writing portion of the lesson. And as soon as we're done with this section, then we immediately go into Illustrator technical skills, because now that we have a little bit of an understanding of the fundamentals, how we look at things as designers, then we can now start to build things graphically with the tools. And then I'll still keep plugging in those principles of design in my conversation. So you'll see how it all kind of fits into each other as we keep going. So if you haven't installed Adobe Illustrator, we're not going to be doing it next week, but maybe start testing it and maybe making sure that it's opening, maybe play around with some of the tools, just make sure that nothing crashes between now and then, because I'm assuming that your systems are installed and everything's working okay. If you have not gotten it installed, then definitely look at the instructions so that you can go to the site. Sometimes the codes are activated. You just have to go to the links according to the instructions and just and install the software, and it's ready to go. So just a couple of quick tips there. Okay. Hopefully this was helpful. Did this tonight's session and giving you some time help you kind of see things and see design a little bit more clearly? If it does, you can give me a little thumbs up. If it did give you a big jump, then maybe you do a little explosion emoji and like, yeah, this is like a huge difference from what I didn't see versus what I do see now. But I just kind of want to get a little bit of a visual for that. Like if this was like a game changer for you, then that's good. That it should be. Okay. And we're just going to keep looking at it and breaking it down. So I'll show you some graphic examples and I'll kind of analyze it with you and how I see it and how I interpret it. And I'm just keep on showing you how I see it. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good night. You guys are officially dismissed. I'm going to check in on packaging design and see how they're doing. Link on Canvas. Yeah, Jonathan. So if you look on Canvas, there should be a post on the wall that says the Adobe Creative Cloud Access, which has the instructions. So if I share my screen here, you would basically go down past orientation, past week 1. Between week 1 and week 2 is Adobe Creative Cloud Access. So if you take a look at that, you'll see the instructions on what link to go to and setting up the installation and testing that out. So it's right there. Okay. Gives you all the things. All you need is your student ID and know your Rio Hondo email, and you should be able to access it from there. Okay. Very cool. All right. I'm going to go check in on packaging design and see how they're doing. And I'll be right back, guys, there. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. So just wanted to check in to see if there's any questions or comments that you might have, since we're kind of set up for this evening. But overall, we'll review some designs next week and go into a deeper dive regarding projects and how you see your designs. Okay. So it should be good there. Take a look at some of your comments. Okay, it's not letting you in the other room, Kalena. You're on your desktop computer, Kalena, right?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have the latest like updates for Zoom by any chance? Is it the browser version, or is it like the downloaded app version?
I think it's the browser.
Oh, okay. So let's see. Let's see if we can try to do a for next session, like a download of Zoom.
Mhm.
I think you'll have some success getting into the room with the downloaded version. So let me see if I can pull that up and see if that helps. So I'm gonna pull up the link and version or Max for Max. Do you have a Mac or a PC by any chance?
It's a PC.
PC. Okay, so this link would be for you. Silicon chips, Max, and Zoom client. Here, Microsoft Outlook added. Okay, so zoom.us download. I'll send it over to you. Let's try downloading the PC version over the weekend, and then, which is at the top there. There's a few other extensions and browsers too that if you feel comfortable, you can add that. But once we do, then we'll try again, and hopefully that'll fix the breakout room issue. Okay. But basically what everyone was doing in the breakout room was that they were looking for the examples and just kind of going through a couple of sample set, asking a couple questions on bad packaging. And Bradley also shared this link on bad packages that will definitely help you look for something that you want to write about.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a resource. Actually, I should put it at, I'm also going to put it up on Canvas too. So that way it's available, but you have two links for good packaging, one link for bad that you can pull from. And then the templates are also there on Canvas. So you can copy the template and type up 5 good, 5 bad examples of packaging and why you think they're bad and good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was. So we were basically
Yeah.
using that time for working.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too. Originally, I didn't go into the other room because I thought if I have no sound, I won't remember to do the things. So I just stayed in here.
Oh, it's totally fine. And so that's kind of how we set it up. So it's really just a kind of like a lab time today, and everyone felt pretty comfortable overall and got some time to work. So I think that Zoom download will definitely help you. So if there's an issue or concern or anything like that, then you can always click onto that, and you should be. I think it'll resolve the issue easily for you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And I sent you an email too. So hopefully you got that regarding a couple weeks back when you kind of sent me something. So I don't know if you received it.
I think I did.
Oh, okay. So, if everything's okay, you can reply to it, just keep me in the loop of how things are going. Okay.
Okay.
Want to make sure that you got as much support as possible. So you should just want to make sure that everything's looking good on your side. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Very cool. All right. So then we'll see you then. Have a good night. Okay.
Okay.
Very cool.
Thank you.
All right. Let's take a look. All right, guys. So Nitty, Oscar, Jonathan, Chris, you guys are doing okay. I know you're sticking around, but if there's any questions, is everyone doing good too? Cool. All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to end the session right now. So, if any questions come up, then definitely connect with me, send me an email. I'm just a click away, and then we can kind of go from there. Okay. All right. We'll see
I have
you.
a question.
Yeah, Oscar, what's up?
Can we send throughout the week? I know we're meeting again with Tuesday, but can we send you a link just so you can kind of see that we're on the right track?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, if you want to share the link and say and ask for some feedback, then I could totally take a look at it and send them back to you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, good question. All right, wonderful. Okay, guys. So then we'll see you then. Have a good weekend and be safe. All right.